So I guess the other topic with technology and just the advancement is AI, of course, because that's
Yeah.
becoming more and more of a topic. Generally, what are your thoughts on, should we be afraid of it? Should we embrace it? Like we talked about before about, using it responsibly. I guess where is the line of, are we able to use something like that responsibly? Because it seems like when we feed it, it just gets bigger and bigger, and it learns. It's like this evolving. Some of the algorithms can evolve and get smarter as we feed it to them, which is good because it's helps us be more productive. But at what point does it become, I don't want to say dangerous, but at what point is it detrimental to feed the beast?
It's a great question, and one that I've thought about a lot. I mean, AI is, I think there was, obviously a moment with AI with ChatGPT,
Mhm.
and, all of a sudden the average person could go in there, give it a prompt and see it spit something out. And I think me, like a lot of people, it was sort of like a wow moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, this stuff, this is real. This works. Um, you know, I think that whenever that happens, it's a lightning bolt for interest, for excitement, for enthusiasm, but also fear, uncertainty, etc. So I don't think there's anything unusual about the fact that we have trepidation about this new technology. In the writing world, there's some pragmatic considerations to it,
Hmm.
starting with, has this generative AI tool consumed my copyrighted work as a way of training itself how to write? I'm very much of two minds about that question. On the one hand, it seems unfair. It seems like to me as a writer, I should be somehow maybe compensated for that. On the other hand, I want, like that's how we all learn, right? That's how human beings learn. We read stuff. And
Right.
as we read stuff, we learn to become better and better writers. And so, I want my AI algorithm to have read the best literature of all time because it will make it better. It'll make
Hmm.
it more akin to what I would want it to be and what I would want it to know. And if you break down the massive human knowledge and you figure out what percentage a particular book plays in training, Chat GPT, it's infinitesimally small, right? And so
Hmm.
I think that worry is a little bit overblown by
Okay.
authors and by the publishing community. Now, there have been some examples, some egregious examples of it, like write me the next Harry Potter book, right? So if you're blatantly stealing someone's copyright or intellectual property, that we already have copyright laws though to protect against that
Hmm.
sort of abuse. So I don't think anything new specific to AI needs to necessarily be there. But you see authors and publishers, and my book has this disclaimer on it saying, this book should not be used as training material for AI algorithms. I think if for
Hmm.
people who are worried about that, they can certainly put that disclaimer. And then I think the tech companies that are training, they'll respect those for the most part. So I think that's one concern. The bigger concern from my perspective has to do with discovery.
Hmm.
So if you look at the AI, and not to get too tech industry inside baseball, but the reason that Microsoft put billions and billions of dollars into OpenAI, the company that does ChatGPT, is because they see this as a big come from behind play for them for beating their archenemy, which is Google. Google makes all of its money, very, very small amount on phones and other stuff. They make really all their money for all intents and purposes on search.
Right.
And search paradigm is I enter some terms, you give me back pages, I go click on those pages, and advertisers pay Google to get at the top of those search results. Well, what happens when AI is your mechanism for finding stuff on the internet, right?
Hmm.
That is a very, very different world. Suddenly, it's extreme threat to Google because now I'm not entering search terms. I'm just saying, AI chatbot, go find me what would be interesting, or tell me, find a page about this or a story about that. You now suddenly very much trust that AI algorithm. We already put huge trust in Google. Who goes past the second page of search results, right? So, like,
Yeah.
there's already a huge bias in those search results and what we see. But if we're just getting one thing back from some AI chatbot, that's a little scary, right? Like
Yeah.
suddenly discovery is out of my hands as a consumer, and it's entirely in the hands of the tool that I'm using to access the internet. And so I think there's a lot of potential for abuse there. I do worry that people will get, this kind of affirmation phenomenon that we talked about will get
Mhm.
even more pronounced in AI, because it'll be like, hey, AI chatbot, give me more stuff that, again, reinforces this belief I already have.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's an area that, I certainly have some concern about with respect to AI. But it's a rapidly evolving space. I'm sure you probably saw, a lot of the leaders in these AI tech companies did a joint letter asking for regulation of their industry, saying that it was a potential threat to humanity. So, and
Wow.
yet, nothing has happened really.
Yeah.
And so I think when the people who are building the technology recognize its own um, potential for abuse and danger, that tells you something.
So why would AI be a threat to humanity?
Well, this is sort of where technology and philosophy get a little bit commingled, right? So the concept that worries many technologists is that as AI becomes is the Terminator scenario, right? That
Yeah.
as AI becomes so self-learning and accelerated, the term for it in the industry is the singularity,
Hmm.
that it runs away from us effectively, right? That it becomes better, faster, cheaper in every respect, and sort of renders humanity irrelevant almost, right? That it can learn at a pace that we can't possibly keep up with, and that whoever sort of controls that engine controls the
Hmm.
world, is kind of how the argument goes. So um, I think for the most part that that's sort of in the realm of science fiction for now. We still do have our hands on the power cord and can unplug the machine,
Yeah.
but it's not a unforeseeable scenario, right? I,
Hmm.
I, I do think that um, it's very, very hard for human beings to understand things that grow exponentially,
Hmm.
and this is growing exponentially. And so, the worry is that we may ignore it, and then all of a sudden it's sort of too late. This technology is kind of escaped our bounds and is I jokingly call it the Terminator scenario, but there's no reason why it couldn't give prompting itself to say, okay, how do we make human beings more docile? How do we keep them at their computers longer? How do we
Hmm.
have them engage in wars with each other? How do we develop weapons that would suppress them or enslave them? There are scenarios that don't require too much imagination to conjure up,
Hmm.
that look pretty scary and pretty dark. And so that's what I think that the innovators of this technology are trying to, rightfully so, is sort of guard against.